Hi, can everybody hear me? This is Glenn. And can you see my screen? Although right now you won't see my platform, but just the conference. Tim says yes. Glad to hear that. Okay, great. Then why don't we get started? Let's see. Let me put up the platform. Let me just put the conference on my other screen just so I can see in case there's any technical issues or anything else I need to know. I can see the chat on my other screen. Okay, here's my platform, MT4. Let me begin by telling you just a little bit about myself. Again, my name's Glenn, and I've been trading Forex since 2003. So I guess about 7 or 8 years. I do it full time, and the methods I'm going to share with you I've developed myself over the last few years. Some of the indicators and moving averages kind of resemble some of the methodologies that Guy already shared with you. So I think this will be a good complement. I hope some of you can use what I share with you, and maybe we can even interact and maybe even find some improvements or ways we can improve the trading methods. Let me just go to a, let's see, 60-minute chart here. This is on the Euro-Yen. And I even took a couple trades just a little bit earlier, just about 15 minutes ago, a couple very quick scalps I'll share with you and use the examples to explain some concepts. But the very first thing I'd like to share with you before going into the steps of the method is just a little bit of the philosophy of how I trade, because I think by understanding the philosophy, it'll help you understand the method and maybe even use the foundation of what I do to help you in case you want to, incorporate your own trading methods or some of the things, some of the other methods that Guy has already shared into kind of the structure that I share with you. But what we're looking at now, and I'm just going to take off one indicator because that's not part of the method, though I can share it with you later. This is basically the structure of how I trade. I use moving averages, and I use one indicator, the stochastic, very similar to the way Guy uses it. My settings are a little bit different. But the indicators I use, the moving averages, are a 20 EMA. Here it shows 21. Sometimes I change it back and forth. There's not too much of a difference. But a 20 EMA, a 40 SMA, a 5 EMA, and sometimes I also incorporate a 10 EMA or 13 EMA. I may change that. But for now, you can consider the indicators a 40 SMA, 20 EMA, and a 5 EMA. Okay? In fact, let me take off the 10 for now. And this is the foundation of how I trade. And what this does, having these moving averages, it gives me a structure to trade from that I can apply to almost any time frame, whether I'm scalping or swing trading. In fact, when I first started trading, I was primarily a swing trader and would hold trades overnight, usually having targets of anywhere from 60 to 120 pips. Now I do a lot more scalping than I did before, but this methodology works either way. You can use it for swing trading or for scalping, and I'll show you examples of both. The moving averages give me a structure, and what I mean by that, it gives me a direction for whatever time frame I'm trading and a direction of the trend. I think a lot of people have difficulty sometimes looking at a chart and knowing what the trend is. Sometimes it may be very obvious, but other times it's not. By using the moving averages, I can always just glance at a chart and know what the trend is at any point in time based on my rules. Someone else may have their own rules for determining the trend, but based on this method, I have very specific rules, and it's clear-cut. So there isn't too much subjectivity involved. And basically, when the 20 EMA is below the 40 SMA, we're in a downtrend, which we are now on most of the dollar-based pairs in the Euro-Yen. When the 20 EMA is above the 40 SMA, I consider that an uptrend, and I'm primarily working for up trades or long trades. And basically, the way I like to trade is I'm trading based on retracements. In other words, where there's obvious trends based on the order of the moving averages, and entering on retracements at key support and resistance points. The other thing that the moving averages do for me, besides determining the direction of the trend, they act as excellent areas of support and resistance. So in other words, when we're in some obvious trends like we've been in the last few days, euro dollar, euro yen, and so on, when price retraces, many times it will retrace back to the moving averages, and those act as very low-risk entry points. Because one thing in my trading that I always look at, and when I look at other people's methods, I always look at risk-reward. And I'm always looking at as to how can I improve my risk-reward or enter a trade with the least amount of risk. And I can do that by entering at or near the moving averages and at or near the most recent swing high or low. And let me just show you some examples of this. And again, right here, this is a Euro-Yen 1 hour chart. And I assume everybody can see my cursor here as well. But we see the trend changed right here when the 20 EMA crossed the 40. Even though the 40 is still angled up, it takes a little bit, sometimes as the trend is changing, for it beginning to angle down. By the definition I gave you a little bit earlier, we're in a downtrend now. So what we're looking for is just notice how price, as the moving averages, just act as support or resistance. Here, look right here, how tight that is. In fact, it goes right up, touches it. It's not always precise, like here we exceeded a little bit. But I consider, even if price closes above the moving averages, above the 40, as long as the 20 EMA is below the 40 SMA, I still consider that we're in a downtrend. Okay? So in other words, so it doesn't matter where price is, it's just the order of the moving averages. So here we're in a downtrend, downtrend. Even up here, notice that price is above the moving averages, but till the 20 crosses, which it does right about here, I consider this a downtrend. In fact, this can provide what I consider a very good trading opportunity. I consider this price being out of balance to the trend. In other words, the moving averages are indicating we're in a downtrend, but price is above the moving averages. So my thought process is either one of two things is going to happen at this point. Is the trend is either going to change to the upside, or it's going to, this was just a retracement and we're going to revert back in the original direction of the trend. So this provides for a very good trading opportunity if everything else occurs. And let me just go through the charts a little bit and show you just some more examples. Again, just how the moving averages, and here, by the way, the trend did change for just a moment, but then changed back, which can happen on occasion, which is fine. But just watch just how the moving averages act as support and resistance. And I'll show you right now a trade I just took based on that. Two trades, one on the euro dollar and one on the euro yen. Let me just go to the euro dollar for a moment. And I didn't stay in them too long because I knew I only took a few pips out of it because I knew I didn't want to have to manage a trade while I was going to be doing this session. But here, look right. We've been. Everybody should know that's been trading the last day and since last week knows that we've been in a pretty strong downtrend on the euro dollar. And even as of this afternoon, even though we had a bit of a retracement for a few hours, we've been, based on my definition, still in a downtrend. And as soon as this happened this afternoon, just a little while ago, this was about a half hour, 45, an hour ago, notice how price on the euro dollar 1 hour chart retraced back up to the 20 EMA, just like it did here, just like it did here. And so when it did this, well, one is I could take a trade off the 1 hour chart, and if I did that, I'd still be in the trade. But what I didn't do that. I actually entered a trade. If you look, in fact, we go to a 30-minute chart. Notice how price goes up to the 40 SMA on the same currency.